Hello everyone, I'm Nishita Anjaria and today we are going to cover the topic nutrition in animals. We've already studied in the previous chapter that plants can prepare their own food by the process of photosynthesis, but animals cannot. Now, animals get their food from plants either directly by eating the plants or indirectly by eating animals that eat plants. For example, goat. Now, goat eats grass, right? But do lions eat grass? No, they eat the goat. So while the goat is getting its nutrition directly from the grass, the lion has to eat the goat who has eaten the grass in order to get its nutrition. Okay? And some animals eat both plants as well as animals. Like us humans, we eat chicken, at the same time we eat spinach. So we're eating plants as well as animals. Now recall that all organisms, including humans, require food for growth, repair, and functioning of the body. Animal nutrition includes nutrient requirement, mode of intake of food, and its utilization in the body. Animal nutrition is very similar to the normal nutrition we studied, where they need their requirements, nutrient requirements to grow, to get energy, and the body has to use it to release that energy. Okay? The components of food, such as carbohydrates, are complex substances. These complex substances cannot be utilized as such, so they are broken down into simpler substances. The breakdown of complex components of food into simpler substances is called digestion. So you cannot absorb the nutrients. Your body cannot absorb the nutrients directly. The complex substances have to be broken down into simpler substances, and the process of doing that is called digestion. Digestion in humans. We take in food through the mouth, digest, and utilize it. The unused parts of the food are defecated. Now, the food passes through a continuous canal which begins at the buccal cavity and ends at the anus. The canal can be divided into various compartments: the buccal cavity, food pipe or esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine ending in the rectum, and the anus. These parts together form the alimentary canal or the digestive tract. Now let us look at where each and every compartment of your alimentary canal is located. The buccal cavity is from the mouth, followed by the salivary gland, the esophagus or the food pipe, liver, stomach, gallbladder, pancreas, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. Like I said, these parts together form the alimentary canal or the digestive tract. The food components gradually get digested as food travels through the various compartments. The inner walls of the stomach and the small intestine and the various glands associated with the canal, such as salivary glands, the liver, and the pancreas, secrete digestive juices. Okay, so from this we know that your food, it travels through all these components, okay, and as it gets digested, it passes through the stomach, the small intestine, the various glands, etc. Now there are glands like the salivary gland, the liver, the pancreas. They secrete digestive juices. Now these juices, they will only help your digestion make easier. They convert complex substances of food into simpler ones, and the digestive tract and the associated glands together constitute the digestive system. So all these components, that's the entire digestive tract and the associated glands, like I said, liver, pancreas, together they form a human digestive system. Now, let us look at each of these compartments of the digestive tract in detail. We'll begin with the mouth and the buccal cavity. The intake of food in human beings is through the mouth. The process of taking in food through the mouth is called ingestion. It starts with chewing. Now, chewing is very necessary for proper digestion, as digestion process starts in the mouth itself. What happens during chewing? The large pieces of food we eat are broken down into small pieces by our teeth. Each tooth is rooted in a separate socket in the gums. Let's look at the action of saliva on food. While chewing, food mixes with saliva that is secreted from the salivary glands located on the lower jaw between the tongue and the teeth. The saliva breaks down the starch into sugars and also softens the food. Now, the tongue. The tongue is a fleshy muscular organ attached at the back to the floor of the buccal cavity. Now, it is free in the front and it can move in all directions. The tongue mixes saliva with the food during chewing and helps in swallowing the food. We also taste food with our tongue. It has taste buds that detect different tastes of food. They are like tiny bumps on your tongue. Sweets and tooth decay. Normally, bacteria are present in our mouth, but they are not harmful to us. However, if we do not clean our teeth and mouth after eating, many harmful bacteria also begin to live and grow in it. These bacteria break down the sugars present from the leftover food and release acids. The acids gradually damage the teeth, and this is called tooth decay. It causes severe toothache and in extreme cases results in tooth loss. So tell me, iska solution kya hai? How do you get rid of this? You have to brush twice a day. Make sure you floss your teeth so that no food particle is left in your mouth. These bacteria are not harmful till they find some food in your teeth. Okay, then they will start breaking it and they'll start making acid in your teeth. Now we move on to the second part of your digestive tract, the food pipe or the esophagus. The swallowed food from the mouth passes on to the esophagus or the food pipe. The epiglottis, which is like a flap-like structure behind the tongue, directs the food into the esophagus and prevents it from entering your windpipe. Inside your windpipe and your food pipe, they are right next to each other, which is why sometimes when you eat in a hurry, you start coughing or you feel like something's choking you. That is because it has entered the windpipe. Now, the food pipe runs along the neck and the chest. The food is pushed down by the movement of the wall of the food pipe. After the food has crossed the food pipe, it reaches the stomach. The stomach is a thick walled bag. Its shape is like a flattened J and it is the widest part of the alimentary canal. It receives food from the food pipe at one end and opens into the small intestine at the other. The inner lining of the stomach secretes mucus, hydrochloric acid, and digestive juices. The mucus protects the lining of the stomach. The acid kills many bacteria that enter along with the food and makes the medium in the stomach acidic, helping the digestive juices to act. The digestive juices break down the proteins into simpler substances. So you have to remember stomach, it is like a flattened J, it is very thick and it is the widest part of your digestive system. The widest, because all the food enters inside together. It receives food from the esophagus. So like we said, you put it in your mouth where the teeth, tongue, the salivary glands together, they chew the food and they pass it down through your esophagus or food pipe, and then it reaches the stomach. The inner lining secretes three things: mucus, hydrochloric acid, and digestive juices. All three play a very important role in your digestion. The mucus has to protect the lining of the stomach because the hydrochloric acid is released. If there is no protection to the lining of the stomach, the hydrochloric acid will affect your stomach too. It will burn down, how acid burns things, it will corrode your stomach. So the mucus protects the lining of the stomach so that it stays intact, and while the acid kills all the bacteria. And the digestive juices, they break down the proteins into simpler substances. Like I said, your body cannot absorb nutrition or nutrients from the food directly. It has to be broken into simpler substances. Now the food has reached the small intestine. The small intestine is highly coiled and is about 7.5 meters long. It receives secretions from the liver and the pancreas. Besides, its wall also secretes juices. Now remember, the small intestine is the longest intestine in your body. Even though it is called the small intestine, it is the longest. The liver is a reddish brown gland situated in the upper part of the abdomen on the right side. It is the largest gland in the body. Now, what is the widest part of your alimentary canal? We just studied. It is the stomach. What is the longest intestine? The small intestine. And which is the largest gland? The liver. So, the liver, it secretes bile juice that is stored in a sac called the gallbladder. Can you see that little green ball under the liver? That is the gallbladder. The bile plays an important role in the digestion of fats. The pancreas is a large cream-colored gland located just below the stomach. The pancreatic juices act on carbohydrates, fats, and proteins and change them into simpler forms. Remember, in the beginning we said that along with the alimentary canal, the remaining glands like liver, gallbladder, and pancreas together make the digestive system because they release the important digestive juices. So these are the digestive juices. While the liver, it produces bile, the pancreas produces pancreatic juices that act on carbohydrates, fats, proteins, etc. and change them into simpler forms. The partly digested food now reaches the lower part of the small intestine, where the intestinal juices complete the digestion of all components of food. So, in the small intestine, the digestion is finally completed. In the lower parts of the small intestine, food is digested, all nutrients are absorbed, there is nothing left inside that. Okay, the carbohydrates get broken into simple sugars such as glucose, fats into fatty acids and glycerol, and proteins into amino acids. So we saw how the different glands like the liver and the pancreas, they secrete digestive juices, and along with the small intestine the food is digested. But after that, don't the nutrients have to get absorbed? The body still needs them, right, to use it. So the digested food can now pass into the blood vessels in the wall of the intestine. This process is called absorption. The inner walls of the small intestine have thousands of finger-like outgrowths. These are called villi. The villi increase the surface area for absorption of the digested food. Each villus has a network of thin and small blood vessels close to its surface. The surface of the villi absorbs the digested food materials. The absorbed substances are transported via the blood vessels, different organs of the body, where they are used to build complex substances such as the proteins required by the body. This is called assimilation. Okay, so now we saw what absorption was. All the nutrients, they pass into the blood vessels and into the wall of the intestine. That is called absorption. Now the inner walls, they have this finger-like outgrowths that are called villi. Villi is plural, villus is singular. Okay. Now they increase the surface area so that more nutrients are absorbed. They want maximum nutrients to be absorbed from the digested food. Now all the villi, like each villus, they have thin and small blood vessels. They have a network of thin and small blood vessels. What do blood vessels do? They will obviously transport everything to the blood, right? So these blood vessels, they absorb the nutrients from the digested food and they send it via the blood to different organs of the body. Now blood is present in each and every corner of your body. Each and every organ receives blood. So all these nutrients, they travel through the blood to different organs. Now when it reaches there, they are used to build complex substances such as protein. Now we said that the proteins and carbohydrates need to be broken down into simpler substances, no complex substances. Everything should be broken down so that the body can easily use them. But when these travel there, it has to transform into the way the body needs it. Like the proteins, the form in which the body needs it, it has to be built into that so that the body can actually use it. Therefore it builds into complex substances such as proteins, and this entire process is called assimilation. You have to remember absorption and assimilation. Now in the cells, glucose breaks down with the help of oxygen into carbon dioxide and water, and the energy is released. The food that remains undigested and unabsorbed enters into the large intestine. We have finally reached the large intestine. The large intestine is wider and shorter than the small intestine. It is about 1.5 meters in length. Its function is to absorb water and some salts from the undigested food material. The remaining waste passes into the rectum and remains there as semi-solid fecus. The fecal matter is removed through the anus from time to time. This is called egestion. So we started with ingestion, where you take in food, and we've ended with egestion, where the fecal matter is removed through the anus. Large intestine is wider and shorter. I told you small intestine is the longest. Always the large intestine is smaller while the small intestine is longer. So everything that you eat, it's digested. The small intestine has completed the digestion, and it has now gone into the large intestine. Large intestine, it absorbs whatever water or salt is remaining, and the remaining waste is thrown out of the body. Diarrhea. Sometimes you may have experienced the need to pass watery stool frequently. This condition is known as diarrhea, or what most people call it, loose motions. Okay, the scientific word is diarrhea. It may be caused by an infection, food poisoning, or indigestion. Under severe conditions, it can be fatal. This is because of the excessive loss of water and salts from the body. Even before a doctor is consulted, the patient should be given plenty of boiled and cooled water with a pinch of salt and sugar dissolved in it. This is called oral rehydration solution, or ORS. ORS, when you make it, it should taste like your teardrop. Have you tasted your teardrop? I'm sure you have. It is supposed to taste like that. That is because during diarrhea your body loses lots of water and lots of salt, so you might end up in dehydration. Now we come to digestion in plant eating animals. We're done with humans, and now we've reached plant eating animals. Have you observed cows, buffaloes, goats and other grass eating animals chewing continuously even when they are not eating? You know, when you eat slowly, your teacher or your mother will say, "Why are you eating like a cow? Chew fast." Why? Actually, they swallow their food very quickly and they store it in their stomach called rumen. What is it called? Rumen. They quickly swallow the grass and store it in their stomach called rumen. Here the food gets partially digested and is called cud. Their food is not digested, they just swallow it and it's called cud. But later the cud returns to the mouth in small lumps and the animal chews it. This process is called rumination, and these animals are called ruminants. What is this process called? Rumination, and these animals are called ruminants. They chew a little and swallow the food inside. Okay, and it is called cud. Later it comes back from inside, it comes back to their mouth in small lumps and they continue to chew it. The grass is rich in cellulose, a type of carbohydrate. In ruminants like cattle, deer, etc., bacteria present in the rumen helps in digestion of cellulose. Many animals, including humans, cannot digest cellulose. Animals like horses, rabbits, etc. have a large sac-like structure called caecum between the esophagus and the small intestine. The cellulose of the food is digested here by the action of certain bacteria which are not present in humans. So far, we learnt about animals which possess digestive systems, but now there are so many organisms which do not possess a digestive system. They don't even have a mouth. So, how do you think they acquire and digest food? Now, let's talk about amoeba. Now, amoeba is a microscopic single celled organism found in pond water. Single celled, it has only one cell in its body. While the human body is made up of millions of cells, it has only one cell. Now, amoeba has a cell membrane, a rounded, dense nucleus, and many small bubble like vacuoles in its cytoplasm. You can only see it through a microscope. So, it has a cell membrane, a rounded, dense nucleus, and many small bubble like vacuoles in its cytoplasm. Amoeba constantly changes its shape and position. It pushes out one or more finger like projections called pseudopodia or false feet for movement and capture of food. Amoeba feeds on some microscopic organisms. When it senses food, it pushes out pseudopodia around the food particle and engulfs it. The food becomes trapped in a food vacuole. Digestive juices are secreted into the food vacuole. They act on the food and break it down into simpler substances. Gradually, the digested food is absorbed. The absorbed substances are used for growth, maintenance, and multiplication. The undigested residue of the food is expelled outside by the vacuole. So amoeba, it is single celled. It has no bones, no nothing. It has only one cell, which is why it can keep changing its shape and position anyhow it likes. It pushes one finger like projection outside. It is called pseudopodia or false feet and captures the food. Then the food particle is taken into the pseudopodia. It engulfs it and the food vacuole is formed. Digestive juices come out, breaks it down, the food is absorbed and the undigested waste is expelled out. This is what an amoeba looks like. You can see the nucleus, the pseudopodia, the food particle, how it's taken in, and the digested waste. So the basic process of digestion of food and release of energy is the same in all animals. In later chapters, we will learn about transport of food absorbed by the intestine into the various parts of the body. Thank you so much. I hope you all understood each and every process perfectly, and I hope you all will go through the PPT once again to get a better understanding of everything.